Good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Lawson, the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations and Annual Giving at UW Tacoma. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Alumni Speaker Series. We will begin with the Share the Land Acknowledgement. So we recognize that all of us at UW Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, we are situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. As people on this occupied territory, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our indigenous community members and neighbors as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. So how this will work with Zoom is that we ask you that you remain muted during the interview portion. After the interview, if there is time, we will go ahead and take questions via the chat. If you can't use the chat, you can come off of mute and ask questions. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties at any time, please note it in the chat and we will assist. I'll now turn this over to our interviewer, Mindy Roman. She's a student from the Masters in Social Work program, as well as the Child Welfare Training and Advancement program. Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you, Jonna. Hi, everyone, and I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. I'd like to introduce you to our guest alumni speaker, Josette Parker. Ms. Parker is an enrolled member of the La Jolla Band of Mission Indians of Southern California and Mexico. She is the owner and clinical director of Advantages Plus Counseling, Inc., which is a small mental health practice located in University Place, Washington. While enrolled in her master's program, she interned at the American Lake Veterans Hospital and also at First Creek Middle School. She was also a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate for Pierce County Juvenile Court with a focus on Native American children in foster care. While in her program, she completed her capstone project on the topic of comprehensive sex education in schools. And in 2010, she started working part-time as a therapist for Advantages Plus Counseling. The focus of her work was on assisting families in the areas of parenting, domestic violence, and mental health. Alongside this work, she became involved in the work of the Race and Pedagogy Institute, University of Puget Sound, as a community partner to forward the work of reimagining the art of education through a social justice lens as an act of revolution. In 2019, she purchased Advantages Plus Counseling, Inc., and continues to advocate for families in the community. In 2020, she became a foster parent. Ms. Parker resides on the traditional lands of the Still-to-Come people near the Salish Seas with her longtime significant other, their great niece, and their 2 cats. So Josette, thank you for joining us tonight. So we'll go ahead and get started. So my first question for you is, can you please tell us about the work of your agency and kind of the role that you play?
First of all, I want to tell everybody thank you for having me here tonight, and shout out to all my fellow social workers. I know what it's like to be in school. It's a long, hard journey, but totally worth it. And I think it might have been Professor Deem at one of the first classes I took. It was, you can be 3 years older with no degree or 3 years older with a master's degree. And I always had that in the back of my mind as I was going through it. I also want to honor my parents, Barney and Mary Osuna, who live in the community still, along with my siblings, my nieces and nephews, my great nieces and nephews. We are I would say, a large tribe of Osunas that live in this area still. So I'll tell you a little bit about Advantages Plus Counseling. They've been around since 1994. I've been with them since 2010. The work of the agency has always been supporting families in the community. A lot of them were referrals from, well, the DCYF now, So we contract with the state and provide services for parents whose children are in care. We also provide services to the community at large with, let's say, through the criminal court for things involving domestic violence, mental health issues. So we are a state certified mental health and domestic violence agency. So that is the work that we do. A lot of parenting support, a lot of rebuilding of families, connecting families to services. It runs along the line of what many of the students do work with the CTAP program, is that we are assisting those families. So a lot of referrals come out of there. It's very important work. So some of the work that we do specifically is parenting assessments, anger management assessments, domestic violence assessments, mental health assessments. We also do evaluations for Superior Court. So those would involve people who are either divorcing, so there's custody cases, parenting plan modifications, things like that. We have several treatment groups here. We have one that's always full and busy. We run 3 of those each week. Is our Protective Parenting program. This program is referred for families where there's been dysfunction in the environment for the children, and children have been witnessed to or have experienced abuse. Sometimes it can be drugs, unhealthy persons in the environment, neglect, domestic violence, different things. So these are typical families that would be referred into that program. We also do an anger management treatment. We do domestic violence treatment. Most of those referrals for domestic violence treatment do come from our criminal courts. People generally have gotten arrested, and the courts are asking us to provide a process to assess whether or not the person is in need of domestic violence treatment. So that's one that's a little bit different. I wouldn't say it's a bulk of the work we do, but it is a lot of the work that we do. A lot of people who are involved in the criminal courts as it relates to domestic violence do have children. So those families are frequently referred into the Protective Parenting group as well, because we are talking about trauma that the children have either witnessed or experienced in their families. We also provide, I've only recently given this up, but it's called a Personal Horizons group. It's a group for domestic violence victims, survivors. And so that each one of our groups, with the exception of the domestic violence, runs for 16 weeks. Most people can get it done within those 4 months. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but the domestic violence victims group was something that I was doing for about 5 years, and I only recently handed it over, and it was really difficult to do because that's some of their favorite work that I do, and it's just for women, private place to talk about some of those experiences. When I am in conjunction to that, we offer counseling, individual, couples. We don't do littles, but we do teens here. I feel like there's agencies that are better suited for smaller, younger children than we are. So at times we do take teenagers here. We also do Oh, there I am. You still there?
I am still here, Josette.
Oh, okay, sorry. We also do what is called cooperative parenting. Cooperative parenting are services that are more geared towards people who have divorced and them needing some support in how they are going to co-parent after the divorce. We used to do a lot of in-home parenting instruction. We do therapeutic observation, and when I'm not busy, I do dabble in triple P. But that one is, you have to be certified to do that, and that one is pretty time consuming to do. So those are some of the services that we do here. We are very busy. We are kind of unique in how we do services here.
Thank you, Josette. It looks like we're just gonna wait for just a second here so we can get your video feed going again. So if everybody doesn't mind waiting. Oh, there you are, perfect. It sounds like your agency is really well-rounded. Can I ask what brought you to the agency in the first place?
Well, by accident. I was doing my practicum at First Creek, and I was also doing my CASA work for Pierce County Juvenile Court, and one of the directors there had sent out an email saying there was a small agency that was looking for somebody that was willing to do some in-home parenting coaching with clients for maybe like 10 hours a week. And because of our schedule when you're in your practicums, very much limited into, you know, being able to work as well as do your practicums, as well as go to school and take care of everything else. So I went ahead and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So came to the agency, and by accident, I came to the agency and started learning about the work that they were doing, and pretty nice, and I would say nice and easy, because you work as a contractor, so you set your own schedule when you want to, you know, schedule clients, make phone calls, things like that. So it really worked well with my schedule being a student. So, but the longer I stayed, the more I enjoyed working for a small agency. So that's how it happened. And so it was along the way, the previous owner kind of mentored me to take over the agency when she was ready to retire. She's not fully retired, she's still here, but I have taken over the duties of the agency. And at times it's been like, you know, if the clock is broken, you got to go get a new clock and hang it on the wall, or something, you know, take it out garbage. Sometimes you just kind of do everything. So now I have a staff of about 5 people, and they're just like me. We all, you know, work as contractors, do our own work, set your own schedule. You don't have to be here at 9 in the morning and clock out at 5 and do all this paperwork. It's not like that. It's, you get your work assigned to you, you do your work, and then you're paid for your work. So I kind of liked that flexibility and the ability to kind of call my own shots. So always doing the work this way kind of allows you to that freedom and flexibility that I needed for me and my life and my schedule. So it kind of worked out.
Wonderful, thank you. It's interesting to hear how just it just worked out for you. You know, just starting off and then how it ends up that now you're going to be that you're owning the place. That's really neat. How has this work that you've done, how does it relate to advocacy and the use of a social justice lens?
So when I was given these questions and I was really thinking about that, I think most of us that are in social work kind of realize that right now the culture of the United States isn't very healthy. So when I think about social justice, and there are times, doing the work where you kind of go, okay, how am I advocating? How am I working for a solution or working towards, pushing issues and saying, hey, we need to do this differently, or what does that look like? And I think it's more of as you work with the individual, you see it more like through the idea that people are experiencing their own oppression at the same time, that most of them involved in a CPS case where there's lots of things going on. And so when you are working with them, you're always looking at, what needs to what needs to change, what needs to get better, how might this client be better served? That is a day-to-day process when you do this type of work. Sometimes it's really challenging. So there were times when I thought I have to come out of this work that is my work and involve myself in other things. So that's when I connected to, we call it RPI, but the Race and Pedagogy Institute over at the University of Puget Sound, with that focus on education. And I kind of got attached to that when I was interning at First Creek Middle School. And one of the teachers there kind of invited me into that group. I think it was 2010, so it's been like 10 years now. But and it was really being able to have conversations, deep conversations about race, about institutional racism, having, I would say, sometimes it's easier to have those conversations with like-minded people. And then you take that and you spread it out into the community. So I've always said, social work is individual. You do your own work, and then you spread it out in the community. So when I think about my clients on the individual level, and so, when you study, and it's the micro, macro, meso levels, right? What you're doing is, when you're advocating for families, you are helping the one person that's going to take that information and that new learning and that new practice and the new way of thinking. They're going to take it and they're going to take it back into their homes. They are going to break the cycle in their own families. They are going to change some of those historical patterns within their families. And as a result, the families change, the families influence the communities. Communities change, we have healthier communities, healthier worlds, where there's nonviolence, where there's equity, where there's affordable housing, where there's good schools for everybody, good programs in schools for everybody, not just the kids that live in communities of privilege. So I think of the social justice lens from that I am part of that, as well as my clients. My clients become a part of that system as well. That is the hope. You see them change. You know it's working. You know that they're able to take what it is that you're providing, and they're making their own changes. With other practitioners I talk to, it's always, we can go back in a family history and see the repeated cycles of dysfunction, addiction, mental health, domestic violence, broken families. You can see the pattern. And then we get to this one person where it has happened to their children. So I always remind them, we are healing now so you can heal your children, so you can protect your grandchildren in the future, right? So that your grandchildren have the possibility of growing up in a home that's stable, where there's no violence, where there's good, healthy parenting that's happening, and that we're keeping these families connected in healthy ways. So I just think of it that way all the time, like, how does it work? Well, it does, and that's the hope. What I always, take away from it is you see people changing, and you know it's going to be better for their children. And if their children can be healthy parents, then the grandchildren will experience the healthy parenting, because that one parent at one point was able to receive the right intervention. I mean, that's kind of how I see it.
Thank you. That's a wonderful perspective. We appreciate it. What surprised you the most, or what were you not expecting about the area of work that you do?
So part of the assessment process is interviewing, clinical interviewing. You all learning that, right? Clinical interviewing. So sometimes people disclose things that have happened to them that they've never shared before. And what do you do with that? And how do you kind of help them to manage that? Because once it's out, sometimes I share that when people share their traumatic experiences, in that moment, they're asking you to help them carry that load. So I know that I am in a position of being a receptor for some of that, not to take it on, but to help them carry it for a while until they're ready to let it go. So there are times when a client will disclose things, and you start to realize that they've never discussed that, and that is part. And in that moment, you realize that you're in a bit of an incredible position with that human to share their narrative of things that have happened to them, and that you are. It almost like it took me a little while, because the first few times it's like, wow, that's a lot, until you start to see it more as an honoring, that it's not a gift. I don't know, it's not a gift, but they are trusting you to help them in that moment. There are other times, I think sometimes attorneys don't really like this, but when you're interviewing a client where they're disclosing things maybe that they shouldn't be disclosing, right? Their attorney's like, don't admit to anything. And so as you learn how to do that, and you start to realize that you can do it very well, clients tell you things, and it's because they want help. They want it. They want it to fix. They want help. They want support. They need support. They're telling you, and then you have to do something about it. I can't just ignore it when you tell me that you did heroin 2 days ago, right? And but the fact that they're disclosing and being honest about it is a really good thing, because they're saying to you, I'm ready to accept some help for whatever this problem is.
Thank you. I really appreciate you talking about disclosure as being an honoring experience, because it means that they're safe and feel secure with you. That's really beautiful. So can you tell us why you chose UW Tacoma?
So, so I'm local, and so there's a lot of reason for that, but I decided a while ago that I wanted a master's degree in social work, and I knew that there were only a certain number of programs, and I said, I know this isn't wise, but I'm going to apply at the University of Washington, Tacoma, because that's where I live. I won't have to move away. I won't have to pack up my stuff and live somewhere else. I could just go to school right downtown Tacoma. It'll be with my, near my family and my friends and my partner, and, won't be that big of a disruption for me to go and go to graduate school. And so I went ahead and I applied to one school, which is the University of Washington, Tacoma, for their master's in social work program, and I got in. So that's why I went to the University of Washington, Tacoma. It was just going to be a better choice for me as far as my life was concerned.
I love that honesty. And what was your most significant learning experience that you had here as UW as a student?
When I started thinking about some of the stuff, and I was thinking about what I learned is that it was watching my fellow students in my cohort who had a ton more stressors going on in their lives than I could even fathom, and yet they were still in graduate school, and they were still doing what I was doing, on top of some of them having, 4 children at home, single moms, working full time, doing their practicums. I mean, all the stuff. And I just sat and watched people, and I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. Because they're like all of us. There were times when I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know if I'm going to survive these 3 years. This is crazy. And then going, finishing one quarter and finishing another quarter and finishing another quarter. And then next thing you know, I was at the finish line. So I think it was seeing other people struggle at the same time that I was. It helped. I guess maybe in some ways it was humbling to say that, if that person can do it, there's no reason why I can't do it. That's kind of how I felt.
I love it. We're all in this together. If you could go back in time and do it all over again, what would you do differently, or is there anything you would do differently? And is there a class that you wish you would have taken or paid more attention in?
So I originally thought that I wanted to be a school social worker. And so I went through that track, and I did the practicum at that track. And I made sure that, I had everything that was required in order to get the certification done after I graduated. And I even went and got the certification after I graduated. And then I changed my mind. So then I thought about it, and I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have thought about that a little bit more. Because what happened is there was some awareness of the level of bureaucracy in a school system that I became disenfranchised with. And so I'm very grateful for the experience that I had at being a school social worker. I'm very grateful for that. I met wonderful people. And, like you always say, you stop on your journey at certain points because you were supposed to learn something there. Like, I met great people at that school, and I'm still connected to those people. So that part, I like, I wish, there's that, I wish I hadn't, but I did. But here's how I benefited from having that experience. It was towards the end, and I always said, I'm not going to do domestic violence, and I'm not going to do addiction. Hey, guess what? It's all domestic violence, and it's all addiction work, right? And so I wish I would have, so I audited Dr. Casey's class, quickly. It was like a quick, I just want to visit in your class. And so she allowed me to do that. But it was kind of a late in the game. And so I couldn't register for that class. But I wish I would have, because all the work that I do now is primarily about domestic violence. And so I wish maybe I had taken more of that coursework. I certainly, for all of you that are learning about theories and things, I use Maslow every single day. And Maslow fits everything. So if you, and then when you decide to take your license, I will tell you that Maslow is a part of the licensing process and the test. And so get familiar with it, practice it, play with it, think about it. It's kind of one of those things. It really is something that is very user friendly. It's very applicable to many situations with your families that you work with. Many of you will be working with families. I think that, that's kind of not regret. I don't want to say it's regrettable, but I wish, I don't know. And then I say, I could have been in there for another year and probably still wanted to do more. So I can't go backwards.
I understand that one. I did take Dr. Casey's interpersonal violence course, and it was fantastic. So yeah, it's one everybody should definitely look at. And so speaking of some of those professors, who were your professors and your mentors or people in your life that really added to your experience here?
So I won't call out professors by name. And before we started, I was trying to look back and say, who's still there that was there before? So before I came to the University of Washington, I attended Evergreen Tacoma. That was, I think, one of my favorite places for personal development that I've ever experienced in my whole life. Like loved every part of it. And while I was there, I made friends with, she's gone now, but I made friends with a lady named Shannon Salazar. So Shannon was somebody who would just say that she had some limitations in her life that did not get in her way. And so what had happened is that she somehow, I knew that she was going to go to the University of Washington and do a master's in social work. I knew that. So what happened is she went straight from Evergreen, and we were in the same cohort at Evergreen. She went straight to the University of Washington Tacoma and started her MSW program. I decided to take a year off. And we stayed friends and we stayed connected. And so then she was 1 year ahead of me going through her program. So she graduated first, and then I graduated. So she was always encouraging me. She was always pushing me. And she was always like, and this is what I'm going to do next. And so she kind of, I won't say paved the way, but I was certainly following her track all the way up to licensing. So she's the one that was like, here's what we got to do. And we got to do this, and we got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And so she was my friend, she was my mentor. We had classes together because before she graduated, you know, we had some overlap in our classes. So we were able to take some classes together. We hung out all the time. We, you know, I would pick her up and we would give, you know, I would give her rides to school, but it was most of it was because, you know, we would talk in the car for 2 hours about something that was discussed in class. So she was my friend and my mentor. I followed her. She knew what she was doing. She knew how to, she was very resourceful. She knew how to get things done. She passed away about 6 years ago, and I miss her dearly. But I am where I am because of her. And I know that. And not just her. There were lots of people, but she, I just kind of followed on her heels, and she knew that. She didn't care. She let me. But always wanted, you know, pushing me to that next level. Okay, then you do this and you have to do this. And so that's kind of one of the bigger people in my life during that time, I would say. And I had a ton of support, family and friends, like ton of support, people, you know, where everybody was there for me, you know, knowing what I was going through and being patient, because, you know, you miss out on a lot of family stuff when you're in grad school. It's like, I got a paper to write or whatever, finals, or, you know, my capstone project is due. So you miss out on a lot. But Shannon is somebody that really was a mentor for me, even though we were in the same boat, kind of in the same time. It's interesting.
It's always special when you can go through it with somebody who understands exactly how you're feeling, I think. So as you know, we're in the middle of this pandemic. And so I really want to talk to you a little bit about how COVID-19 has really impacted your daily life.
So, so when you own a business, you have to make decisions. You have to make decisions very quickly. So when we were told we're going on this, so it was back in March, right? And they're like, okay, shut down all the businesses for 2 weeks and see what happens. So because of the services that we provide, a lot of people are court ordered. So quickly I have to consider the clients that we have are court ordered in the services. Some of them are that them completing services is them getting their children returned to the care is dependent on them being able to complete services. Other clients, it was part of their criminal cases, and so when you do domestic violence treatment, there's always a consideration for safety, risk and safety. If we are not providing services, is there a risk to family, community, et cetera, et cetera? So immediately, I came in the office and I started emailing people saying, we're going to have to start doing virtual groups. We need to make sure that, and I started emailing my staff. I said, we need to make sure that our families and our clients continue to receive the services they're getting, because we cannot stop providing services. We need to, I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll do what I have to do. I'll figure out how to use this Zoom thing. So a lot of us, you know, on the learning curve, I had to teach myself at the same time I was teaching staff and teaching clients how to use the technology so they could continue in their services. So we were only down as far as service providing. We were down for 2 weeks. I let all the clients know. I said, because we started hearing about it, and I said, if something happens where we're going to have to shut down, we have all your contact information, and we will keep you in the loop. You need to check in. We will figure this out. So my clients knew, we as a staff knew that we had to do something. We had to do something quickly, and we had to do something that was going to make sure that clients still had continuity of services, and that we were committed to that. So quickly, boom, 2 weeks later, all our clients are trying to get online, trying to figure out how to do that. And some people didn't get in, but they certainly tried. And we, I'm calling people saying, okay, all you have to do is, make sure you download this app. And, I was trying to act like I knew what I was talking about. We were all in the same boat together. So we were able to do that because I work from the office. I can be by myself here, and none of the other staff. So I was pretty much isolated. So in my home, we have a teacher. So the teacher had to work from home, and so we had to create. Well, he did a really good job creating a space for himself to set up all his stuff, and him figuring that out. So I think professionally, both of us did not, we were still working. We were still trying to figure out, how to, for him to support his students and for me to support the clients. I'm super socially active, and, lots of events and things and a big, huge family. So personally, we kind of, cut back on a lot of things, and that's difficult to do. And we also have a little one in the house, and she needs to get out. And I know, you can't be locked in the house. I mean, that's not going to work. And so we've had to adjust, and we've had to figure out, and like most of us, we were it's not easy. It's not easy. And then having to have a work-life balance, because, well, you can work from home. No, I don't really want to do that, but kind of protecting that.
So you talked a little bit about your clients and the family, but, can I ask what you did to protect your mental health during all these impacts that have affected everybody?
So for my own mental health, it's impacting me. I feel it. I know my clients are feeling it. It is, so for me, I get out, I run, I ride bikes. We have a bicycle seat for the baby, and she likes to ride bikes. We would pack picnics and go to the park and sit out in the park and let her play, chase her around, have a little dinner after work. So every day, so during the summertime, it was easier to do it that way, but then just coming home, getting her, getting outside. We were taking walks together frequently throughout the day, cooking a lot. I didn't get to say, like, I know some people, they were like, oh, we're doing arts and crafts and baking and cooking and everything. I didn't get that break. Whatever that break was, I didn't receive that break. So I'm a little resentful of that, but I did find that I was trying to keep myself physically active. And for me, that helps me because I'm kind of type A, so I can get a little bit crazy sometimes. So I have to get that energy out. And, when you sit in an office all day, you're like, you got to be able to be physically active and get energy out. And so those were ways that we were doing that as a family to kind of help support each other, because it is a lot. I started going out shopping again, and that's interesting. Yeah, not as much shopping. A few times we went to the beach to, where there weren't a lot of people, where we could kind of spread out. So, we went to the beach and, just to enjoy the outdoors, very much social distancing, very much using our masks, things like that. But for me, it's being outside, and that's how I help myself. When I talk to clients, I'm like, whatever it is that heals you or helps heal you, being in nature is a really easy way to do that. You don't have to immerse yourself. You can even just go park and sit on the waterfront and look at the water coming in. If that helps kind of heal you a little bit, like, by all means, go and do that. Because I know it works for me. So those are things that I was doing, but including my family as well, and a lot of that. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So we have one last question, and then we're going to open it up for everybody to ask questions. But my last question for you is, what is the one piece of advice that you would be able to give to current students?
Start your licensing process as soon as you can. Just get it done. Don't let a bunch of time pass. Definitely sign up for the NASW, the testing. They have a session workshop for how to take the test, and they give you this really nice binder that has like what's going to be covered in the test, so that you have like points where you can start your studying process. If you're going to do that, think about it and like, okay, I'm going to do that, and then plan for it, because you really can't do any of the application stuff until you're done with your master's program, and you have all your ducks in a row, so that you can apply for your associate license. If you are going to do that, and you're going to take the test, get study buddies. You don't have to have 4 or 5 people, just one person you can count on. I studied, and I think I gave myself about 4 months to study. So it's not like you study overnight and then go take the test. Well, I'm not like that anyways, but so I gave myself about 4 months to study, and I was very scripted about it. These were my study days. These are the days I would take off. I had made, it was real studying that I was doing. And then I had a study partner that we met up once or twice a week, and we went over test questions together. We supported each other in taking the test. And so that's the advice, if you're going to go that direction, plan for it, have somebody that you can study with. If that's what you're going to do it as soon as you can, right? Get started as soon as you can. So you can start accruing your hours. Find somebody that can do your supervision, all of that. I think that's the advice that I got, but I didn't get that. I didn't get that support. I got that from outside of the program. So that is a piece of advice, and I don't know if the program's changed now, but I know I didn't get that in my program. And so I would say, the test is, if you study for it, you will be okay. But you just got to plan. You got to plan for it. You do have to plan for it. So I would advise that.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to open up for questions, and then we'll have our Q&A session. So if everybody could, anybody that has questions, put them in the chat, or you can come off of mute and you can ask the questions yourself. Thank you, Josette.
Okay, I'm checking the chat. I don't see anything yet. Just going to give a few moments because some people may be reflecting.
I have a question. What is your advice for when you get into practicum and you start practicum?
I have 2 practicums, and one was at the American Lake VA and the other one was at First Creek Middle School in Tacoma. And I remember Dr. Dean was like, you know, get out of your comfort zone. Like, I was like, I'm not going to do medical social work, right? But he said, get out of your comfort. So I applied for a VA position and went into a VA position. So in both of those practicums, my supervisors ended up having to go other places. So I would say in your practicum, I wouldn't say be a fly on the wall, but I made a couple mistakes related to my capstone project, which is interesting. If any of you are up on politics, we voted for referendum 90 during this political season, chaos. And that was the basis of my capstone project. But when I was at First Creek, I made the mistake of asking a question about that. So where's your sex ed curriculum? And then I was told don't you come in here trying to like make waves, right? And I was like, okay. That's when I learned like sometimes sometimes things are the way they are, and there are reasons for that, right? So I think that's a mistake I made. I just went open my big mouth asking questions, but I think being a fly on the wall or be careful who you ask questions to. I guess that might be a part of it too. That's an advice.
Thank you so much.
Leslie Kincaid wanted to know, what are you reading these days?
So when you're in school, you read a lot of other things. So every once in a while, I dabble in nonfiction. It's rare because I don't want to anymore. But I just finished reading this because it was, I don't know how they talk about it, because it's supposed to be Native American month this month. Last month it was apparently Filipino month. I don't know. So in my library suggestions, it's a Filipina writer, and it was called The Farm. So I just finished reading that like last night, and that was a weird thing to read. But the commodification of the wombs of women by wealthy people, that's what the story's about. Surrogate moms. So that's what I just finished reading. I like to read fiction, historical fiction. I read a lot of books about around the times of 1865. I read a lot of historical fiction. Sometimes I need a break, right? I need a break from all this. So I don't always, read everything heavy. So sometimes just, kind of to escape it all, I do read a lot of historical fiction. Yeah.
So it looks like we have time for probably one more question, maybe two, but one for sure. Cynthia Brady put in a text. She wanted to know, what program did you take? And she said, I know you said that you went for an MSW. However, what was the track, or was there a specific track at that time?
No, so I was not, so most of the cohort that I was in, they were, well, I don't want to say most, a lot of them were CTAP students. So when I was in my program, it was it was at the beginning of the time when it was the state was changing from Department of Child Welfare into Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So the programming that was for us at that time was it was called Children, Youth, and Families. So that was a focus, which I use a lot of that in my work that I do now. So like, but I don't know if that's changed, but that's what it was when I was a student there.
Are there any more questions?
I don't see any more. So with that, we'll just transition to the close. Thank you so much, Mindy, and thank you so much, Josette. I'll come back on screen now. I didn't want to be distracting. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Thanking our student and our alumna, Mindy and Josette. I do want to tell you, all of the alumni that are here and the students, that we have a new networking platform called Tacoma Husky Landing. We have our own hub within that. It's a tri-campus effort, and it's a way for students to connect with alumni and actually get mentors or job shadow. It's a career tool, professional development, and you can pre-populate your LinkedIn profile into it. We do have alumni, faculty, and staff in there. There are some community members as well, but students are coming. And so I just want to encourage everybody to look for that. I can go ahead and put that link in the chat here for you. Let me see if I can get that in there for you. So I have that there, and that's the Tacoma Hub there. So we welcome you to join the platform. And then our next Alumni Speaker Series event will be December the 10th, which is a Thursday at 6 p.m. It'll be featuring alumna Angela Suresh from the Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences Communications Program. And I just want to say to everyone to stay safe, continue to stay safe, and keep yourselves, healthy, and go dogs. And that's what I have for this evening. So thank you so much once again for attending.